Welcome back, brothers, tourists, and ladies, to another installment of The Chapter House, the Old Glory Club's look into the men who make up the chapters that make up the Old Glory Club. Joining us tonight is the Steam and Steel Society out of the great state of Nebraska. And representing Nebraska tonight is Mark. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic.
Well, that's great to hear. Many viewers will know that I was absent last week due to an illness. I'm also doing fantastic. So it's just a fantastic evening. And also joining us from Nebraska is Icos. I hope that you are keeping the commies at bay in much the same way as our friend in your profile picture here.
Yes, sir. That's the goal.
Wonderful. We all have examples that we should follow. All right, friends. Nebraska. It is a state. This is what I know. What I also know is, okay, so I don't know if this was the state that was pictured, and I don't know if you guys remember this, but years ago, one of the most horrific people to ever walk this earth, a journalist, made a Twitter post where he was showing farmland from the sky because he was, in an airplane flying over flyover country, and he said, what makes the earth turn into those patterns, referring to farmland. And whenever I'm doing this show, I'm looking at a Google Maps of the state, and that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing lots and lots and lots of farmland. Does that sum up Nebraska?
Yeah. So, have you ever seen that line that they draw where it's a map and it's a line that's drawn straight down the middle, and then on one side it's like most of the population, and then there's nothing, and then there's another line and it's California. Have you ever seen that map?
No, but I can imagine it.
So Omaha, Nebraska, and Lincoln, Nebraska they're in the eastern part of the state. And that line goes essentially like right through Omaha. So when you go west of Omaha, you are essentially leaving civilization for a while, and you are entering cowland. There's farms and cattle.
That being said, it's gorgeous. I will definitely stick up for the beauty of Nebraska. Coming from Texas, originally, I was stunned when I actually got up to Nebraska and got to see the true rolling hills of, first kind of the Missouri Valley, and then once you get really truly up onto the Great Plains, it's stunning. It's gorgeous. It's green. It's it's verdant, and it is truly deep Americana. What your image of of, I'm going to quote a little controversy here right off the bat. What your image of in terms of Midwest Americana, it's that as far as the eye can see.
No, right. Absolutely. If you drive through Nebraska, you'll see. So I had the privilege several years ago of driving through Western Nebraska, which is think the Panhandle part of Nebraska. It's the Sand Hills. Probably nobody's familiar with them, but just Google the Sand Hills. I was driving through it at sunrise with a light mist going through, and it's just the most drop-dead gorgeous scene you'll ever see.
I really love the actually area kind of north Kansas up into Nebraska, going through Nebraska City and such, that area all the way up to Blair, north of Omaha. It's gorgeous. It truly is God's country.
So it's not completely flat
no.
So I think I feel like people have this idea of Nebraska as flat. I feel like South Dakota or maybe Kansas is more like this. I've never really driven through like east-west through Kansas, but no, Nebraska, it's quite varied.
I've driven east-west through Kansas, through the Stone Hills. That place is beautiful too. I've lived in Lubbock. I know flat. Nebraska ain't flat. There, like when it ices real hard, like neither me and my wife or my wife can actually get out of our neighborhood because the hills are too steep and our cars can't like make it up if it's too slippery.
I mean, that sounds excellent, if only because I imagine it keeps the number of cyclists on the roads to a minimum.
Well, it does, but also like I don't know. We can talk about Council Bluffs later after we talk about Iowa a little bit. Council Bluffs, for those who don't know, is part of the larger Omaha metropolitan area, but it is over the river and in Iowa, and it is that shadowy place with which Simba must never go. It's
our West Memphis.
I've never seen in any other city or town a mobile, homeless, drug addicted population. It is truly astonishing, a wonder of the world.
Oh, okay, now this is going to require some digging into, but before we start pissing off the Iowans, who are also the next chapter we have on, I'm looking at. I just got distracted here. How is it that the Epley airfield is surrounded on most sides by Iowa, but is still in Nebraska?
I can answer that.
It's Carter Lake. I can't explain that. Yeah, so hopefully you can.
If you know anything about like how rivers change over time, you'll know that like the banks move and they will essentially like block off a section of the river and form a new channel. That's what happened there, where it was in Iowa at one point, but then it severed off. So if you're driving to the airport, like you're gonna go through Iowa for a little bit, and that's where like you'll see some casinos and strip clubs in there.
No, that makes sense. So the Missouri went up around Carter Lake. So Carter Lake used to be part of the Missouri.
Yes, it did.
All right. This makes sense to me now. That's less ridiculous.
See, God wants Nebraska to have more of that territory, so like he's just constantly shifting it over our direction. It tells you on whose side he is.
Of course. Well, all right. So I wanted to get into the controversy surrounding the Midwest. Now, I'm from New England, and anybody who knows New England knows that we're very provincial people. Outside of New England and New York City, nothing really exists to a New Englander. So the concept of the Midwest is a vague and murky one at best. Apparently, though, this is something that is very important to Midwesterners. So please, take us through the controversy. Is Nebraska a part of the Midwest?
So I will say definitively yes. Now, I was not even aware that this was a controversy until fairly recently. You growing up here, like we've got our brats, we say our opes, just like all the rest of the Midwesterners. But then all of a sudden, joining the OGC, it's like I had to justify our inclusion in the Midwest region to all the other Midwesterners, and I was shocked. Now, I will say it is a little bit like Missouri, where when you're traveling through Missouri, at a certain point, you leave the Midwest and you enter the South. You don't know exactly where that is, but you know when it's happened. Likewise, when you're driving from east to west through Nebraska, at a certain point, it becomes the West. It becomes more like Wyoming and all that, but most of our population is in the East, in Lincoln and Omaha.
So is this more of a regional distinction or a cultural distinction?
This is a cultural distinction. For instance, like you'll see like rural Nebraskans like wearing like the Western wear, But if you go to like Omaha or Lincoln, like it's not so much the Western culture. It's very Midwestern. You know, we've got our casseroles and all that.
Okay, yeah. So this is what I mean. What is Midwestern culture? So you said casseroles. You said something about brats before.
So I'd say it's the areas of the interior of the continent that are from primarily German stock mixed in with the Anglo stock. So our area is very German. Like the two like most prominent like religious groups are the Lutherans and the Catholics in our area. And the Catholics mainly come from the Irish, who came a little later.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that Nebraska was also inflicted with the Irish. They are a well-known blight out here. Now, all right. So, Mark, are you from Nebraska? Did you grow up there?
I was born and raised in the Omaha region, so I know a lot about Omaha. I don't know much about Western Nebraska.
Okay. Now, this is going to be a question mainly for Icos, having come from outside of Nebraska. Now, when I've never been to Nebraska, but I have been to Montana. I know it's quite a ways away, but I noticed a phenotype of woman that I had never seen anywhere else. And the only way that I could describe this is resting smug face, and that became my like the image in my mind of locals from Montana. Does the Nebraska like woman have its own have their own phenotype that separates them from what you're used to in, say, Lubbock, Texas?
Yes, and so here's the thing. I'm from what I term the Deconquista in South and West Texas. When I got to Nebraska, what I was struck by is the fact that everyone there, every white person there, every white person has blue eyes. I was shocked. Like it was legitimately, I was shocked. I've never seen anything like it before. I had never seen so many people with blue eyes. It's like blonde hair, blue eyed, really kind of, yes, German phenotype. But not, I think you would expect, the big farm lady, right? And I've seen a couple of those. Also, Nebraskans are super tall. Like crazy tall. So, but in Omaha, Lincoln, kind of in more towards the city or more towards sort of eastern Nebraska, I find the women to be generally tall, blonde, blue-eyed. Yeah, that would. No, smugness, absolutely not. Nebraskans are. I think if you're from somewhere that is not here or this sort of region of the Midwest, like it can be a little jarring because just anybody will just talk to you kindly and, openly, to the point that as somebody who's not from here, is, it's basically like, are you talking to me? Like, why are you talking to me? Don't talk to me. Are you still talking to me? It's like all of our other, jaded ways of being outside of this kind of, very genuine. Sounds to me like it's Midwestern culture, but the quote unquote Nebraska nice is definitely a thing, and it's definitely alternate to. The places where we have to be a little bit more jaded or a little bit more kind of tough, with the people that we're around. It's somewhere where a high trust culture, really tries to cling on, it seems.
Yeah, so this is we are kind of polite to a fault in that we will. It's good to be polite, but at the same time, there is a certain aspect of there are things that need to be addressed that are just kind of never spoken of, and it's not okay to speak of openly. And maybe we can get into like demographics of like what's been happening to Omaha in the last decade or so, but I'll let you kind of direct the conversation from there.
Yeah, I actually I wanted to clarify. I wouldn't say that the women of Montana were smug, but there was a phenotype that had. I mean, you've all heard of resting bitch face. That doesn't necessarily mean that the woman herself is a bitch. It just means that, you know, maybe she could use a smile every now and again. But the women in Montana looked very smug, which was very amusing to me. So what I'm hearing from you, Icos, is that Nebraska is filled with tall, blonde, blue-eyed women. Are they also beautiful, or are they just like they got the first three and the fourth one, the face is just gone?
As a married man, I cannot comment.
All right. Well, you shouldn't be having your wife watch the streams. I say that mine's watching right now, so I shouldn't be saying any of these things either. Sorry, honey. All right. Yeah. So we've got this Germanic influence. Big, strong farmers. These are the types of Americans that all of the Europeans marveled at during World War I, because they were a full foot taller and probably half again as wide. That's I'm glad to hear that those people still exist in Nebraska. I mean, you're saying that the demographics of Omaha are shifting, which makes sense to me. It's a big city. It's got some airports. Does it have an international airport?
So it is currently being renovated being redone to become an international airport. There's a couple things that they have to do to be able to accept international flights, but they are trying to do so. I don't get why, because we're the most landlocked state in the union. I don't know why we need it easier. Oh yeah, that's definitely why. I don't know. Omaha's been growing a lot since I was a kid, and I would like it to stop.
Yeah, so you know, it seems that there isn't a city in the United States that isn't growing a lot. We are under the gayest invasion in human history. So every single one of our cities and states are being overrun by the refuse of the third world. Now, without this this international aspect to your airport, does that has the tide been slow, or is it still moving at a kind of a breakneck speed?
So I wonder if Austin or Icos might be able to.
I do have some insights into this, just through the nature of my job. I will say, when I got here, it was black pilling to see the way that the demographics are going, because it was like, God damn it, you know, here too, like there's nowhere that you can go in this country. So just like, as an aside to the people, to the men of this country, you do have to actually stand and fight for your home and where you're at, because unfortunately there is nowhere to escape to. In terms of the directions of the demographics and the resettlement that has been going on there, since the 2000s, since like the late 90s and into the 2000s, there has been a significant push for immigrant resettlement there in Omaha. It is not slow. It is exactly as fast as everywhere else. There are significant populations. So, you know, as we all know, groups like the Catholic Charities, like the Lutheran Immigrant and Refugee Services, etc., they do anything in their power to bring, you know, these people to wherever it might be. starting in like the 90s, they were settling like South Sudanese. So there's a significant South Sudanese population in North Omaha. And recently they have also been settling Karen Burmese. And that's actually a significant source of gang violence and friction right now on the streets of Omaha is Burmese gangs fighting Sudanese gangs on the streets of Nebraska.
People don't realize, or people don't think about like gang violence with Nebraska, but it's been a problem for a long time. Like I can remember like back in high school, it being talked about how we've got a disproportionate amount of gang violence due to these immigrant populations being brought in.
South Omaha is certainly, and most of the Hispanic populations in Nebraska seem to be Guatemalan, to the point that like some of these peoples here don't even speak Spanish. They only speak, like indigenous Mayan languages. There's significant Cubans that have been brought in. And then of course, with the wave of Haitians, there's Haitians everywhere too.
Guys, I gotta tell you that, I mean, the mental image in my head is it sounds like a circus that never that never cleans its porta potties. Like I can only imagine the smell between the Sudanese and the Burmese fighting each other in the streets. But to throw Haitians and Guatemalans into the mix, like you literally have like a circus there, right? You've got midgets running around. That's absolutely amazing. You said this has been going on since the 90s.
At least from what I'm aware of in terms of, what I've seen. Now, again, I haven't been here long. So this is just kind of, the situation as I've come into it and observed. Now, all this to be said, like we were talking about before, this area of the country was originally settled by Germanic peoples who were well assimilating into American culture and into the fabric of America. And you do still see that mostly outside of Omaha, mostly in the country, but it is really kind of a clash of visions of the sort of poster of heartland America versus the urbanization and what that brings to a society and what that has been made to bring to a society. And so that is also a source of discourse within our club as to what is the next step. Is it trying to basically enclave ourselves in a more, kind of rural environment where that power is kind of more available? Or is it trying to retake urban centers and the vision of American urbanism, the vision of, the Art Deco revolution of the 1920s that really brought life to Omaha, and from which we derive our name of the steam and steel society, with the railroads, with the the Grand Central Station, or the Durham Station,
Union Pacific.
Union Pacific. There you go. Again, the history. So in any case, where does that lead us, and what is the right direction? I think we see that, play out across this nation, but even here in Omaha, you've got it kind of directly contrasted there. Those kind of competing visions of what it was, what it can be, what it could be.
So I think we should also address the issue of the blue dot. And those outside of Nebraska probably are not familiar, but we're one of the only 2 states that split our electoral college vote. We have 3 districts. Omaha, I believe, is District 2. And we are considered the blue dot. The last election, we had a lot of signs that just had a blue dot in the center of a white field. And that is because we split our votes, even though Nebraska is considered like a red state, because we split our vote into districts, Omaha itself is very blue. And it's kind of weird to people coming to Nebraska that think it's like a rural red state, come to Omaha and it's very blue, very what's the word? There's, I don't know, so gay. You'll see the pride flags in a lot of, especially like the more urban parts of the city. You'll see just whole neighborhoods just displaying the gay and the pedophile flags just on
the rich neighborhoods.
Yeah.
So this actually, obviously, urban centers have a tendency to go blue, and you just mentioned that this is the blue dot, and the only other state in the union that splits up its votes is Maine, which I hope we have a chapter there soon, because it's a wonderful state, and man, Maine is a horror show of what can happen when you start bringing in Somalis. But back to Nebraska, I had some questions for you guys about Omaha. How is Omaha run as a city? And when I say how, I mean, like, is it run well? Is it most of our urban centers our cities are insolvent. They're bankrupt. They have been for a long time. How does Omaha run with these? I imagine that there has to be quite a bit of spending on these immigrant populations.
Icos, you want me to take that?
I mean, from what I can see, I would say no, it does not run well. I think a good example is they're trying to rebuild a tram line, and basically all it has been is just rip up all the downtown streets, make business impossible, and build not a whole lot and very much time.
So as a native, I'll kind of speak to this issue, because it's a curse of Omaha to constantly be trying to be like either Kansas City or Chicago. And I think the city government right now wants to do that yesterday. So they're currently trying to redo the entire infrastructure of the city at the same time. Now, the problem with that is that all of the city, all the entertainment districts where they're building these new things, the rail cart, and they're trying to, do all this, it's going to drive them out of business before they even complete it. And this has been a big controversy with the local businesses, and I don't know how much we want to get into the local politics and things going on, but
yeah,
it's been a real problem.
Be, interesting to see how a blue city within a truly red enclave operates.
Well, we did elect our first black mayor after our first, I think it was our first woman mayor. So
oh wow,
I think that kind of says it all.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think that kind of says it all. I don't think anybody in the city is happy with the city government at all.
So is this, they elect, I mean, I don't know how the party system works there, but is this because the Dems only won, they don't hold a primary, or they just run one candidate, and then the people of the city are just forced to vote for whoever it is that the local party puts up?
Well, I think it's a problem. So are you talking about the city or the state? Because the city is a little bit different. So the city, it's split up into districts, and the city council members are elected from districts. The problem is that the city is very blue in certain areas. So the closer you get to the river, the bluer it is, and the further you get west from the river, the redder it is. So you've got on the one hand, you've got the millennial liberals in the urban centers. We've got Creighton College and all that. We've got the hipster areas. But then the further west you go, then you get the boomer cons. And both of those kind of two divisions of Omaha are not conducive to good government, let's say. So the constituencies out west are very it's almost like there's two Omahas. There's the Omaha east of 72nd Street and the Omaha west of 72nd Street. And that's like the old city, which has been overrun by the liberals and the hipsters and the minorities. And then west, you get progressive concentric rings of the boomers escaping the consequences of the immigrants. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
No, I mean it makes sense that you're watching white flight, and then the hipsters come in to gentrify after the immigrants have moved through the area and destroyed them to such a point that the property values drop back down. I mean, this exact thing played out all over the East Coast in the 80s, 90s, and in the early 2000s in Philly and DC and things like that. Is it more recent in Nebraska, or has this been a decades-long process as well?
Yeah, so it feels like it's been more recent. I'm not sure exactly when it started to happen, but the Omaha city government has been trying to revitalize, in quotes, certain areas of Omaha. And what that essentially means is bringing in white liberals. So I live kind of close to like this area. And my neighborhood has gotten infinitely better since I moved in, simply because certain ethnicities have been moving out and white liberals have been moving in. So I don't know, I don't know, I can't speak to like other places, but I've definitely noticed this trend.
Yeah, it is an interesting trend, and it's kind of obvious to anybody who isn't a slave exactly what's going on. But the reason I asked initially about the state of Omaha as a city and how it's being run is, we have some people in the organization who make a lot of, they have a lot of good ideas about how these blue cities that are being run into the ground by a combination of, cynical business interests and pants on head retarded true believers in liberalism and equality, that the easiest way to do to fix them is to have the state declare the city insolvent and unincorporate it, and then take it into receivership underneath the auspices of the state and restructure the city, which would basically allow a red state like Nebraska to turn Omaha into a red-run city, at least until it's, quote unquote, gets back on its feet. Now, my question there relates to how Nebraska as a state is run. It's red. And so I imagine this means that your governor and your legislature is mostly Republican. Is that correct?
So we have a unicameral state senate, which I think I think we are the only one. There might be one other. I think we're the only one.
We're the only one.
Okay, yeah, we're the only one. So officially, I think they're not allowed to declare Republican or Democrat. I might be wrong on that, but the essentially Omaha, because the population is so much focused in the east, Omaha has a lot more weight than the rest of the state, and so you essentially see a battle kind of between rural Nebraska and Omaha. And Omaha's been growing a lot lately due to certain influxes of population, let's say. So I wonder how that's going to play in the future as far as where the state politically is going to be.
And honestly, it's not like we know this. It's not like the Republicans are that much better. I mean, we are the state that has produced not Dan Osborne.
Don Bacon.
Don Bacon. So that's that's in part the kind of quality of Republican that we have here in any case.
Please bring the viewer and myself up to speed on the many travesties of Don Bacon.
Have you not seen the Twitter debacle that was happening just within the last few weeks?
There's quite a few Twitter debacles.
Well, I don't know. Icos, do you wanna kind of sum it up?
I mean, the most classic one was Don Bacon was saying something or the other. And Pete Quinones kindly replied to him on Twitter and asked him, well, if one country had to cease to exist, either America or Israel, which country should that be? And Don Bacon replied, you should read the book of Revelations.
Yeah, right. I have seen this. Whenever a boomer or a neocon makes a tweet like that, or any tweet, all I see over where their name is supposed to be is neocon. So they're all interchangeable species to me. I don't recognize their name, but that was from your state.
Yes,
indeed.
I will say, so all along my street were all yard signs of the blue dot. And so and this was when I had just moved there. I had just moved here. I didn't know. So I got a Don Bacon yard sign and put it out just as a big middle finger to the whole, everybody around me. But yeah, after that, I had to kind of go out there and pull that sign out.
Yeah, I mean, I do like that you muscled your way into this high trust community and just were like, yeah, you can't trust your neighbors now.
Yeah, more recently, Don Bacon has been going to bat for the Haitian community in Omaha.
Oh yes! Oh god damn it! Yes. Now I remember.
Yeah,
that's what's been going on recently.
Yeah, so he went to bat for I can't remember the exact acronym.
He said
for it, but
350,000. It's like if we revoke TPS, temporary protective status, then Nebraska businesses are going to lose up to 350,000 workers. Is the way that he phrased it, and then oh goodness, somebody. Okay. Mark, you might know the next steps of this, but somebody replied to him saying, what about TPS for, oh God, you take this over.
I don't remember the specific chain of events, but essentially what happened was he got pushback, a lot of it. And rather than pulling back, he doubled down and he essentially threatened to bring in more third worlders and immigrants to these people who are complaining about him supporting Haitians over American workers. And it's the fact that a Republican senator or congressman could threaten to bring in even more, it just boggles my mind.
Yeah, I do remember this as well, because you're right, it was fairly recent. So how does somebody like that get elected in Nebraska? Are there a lot of dispies, or is it just the classic general voter apathy? So
there's a lot of dispies. Now, the election between him, like I said, Omaha is a very blue area. He barely won the election the last time. Thankfully, he is retiring, I believe. Fingers crossed. But the last election, he barely won. It was super close margins. So I'm assuming that the next election is just going to be a blue congressman. We're just going to be sending a.
Well, not quite, because the person that he won the election over was actually, I mean, he was for every intent and purpose, he was a Democrat, but he had to actually run as an independent, because in that district, really, you the independent guy, or quote unquote, he was Dan Osborne. That's why I keep getting confused. Don Bacon, I mean, he is actually a pretty generally safe Republican seat, because it is more kind of like Western Omaha and that kind of area, I believe is his district, where you do get a lot of the kind of boomer con moneyed sort of I'm a whatever quote unquote family values conservative, e.g. neocon Republicans. And so that is really kind of where he's coming from. I don't know if it's actually specifically like dispensationalist or evangelical. I don't really think that I've encountered many of those here, at least not compared to, living in the South. It is more kind of Catholic and high church Protestants that I've encountered here, but just the general like cultural, what is a Republican supposed to be? What are they supposed to do? And what is kind of a safe Republican? That's more where it comes from, is my read.
Okay, so it's just people kind of sticking with 70s Democrat versus Republican, like the idea is stuck in their head, which would make sense.
I'd say so.
If the population is older. Is it a lot of boomers and Gen X?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so we spent quite a bit of time talking about the general politics of Nebraska. Now, Nebraska is obviously a big open state, a lot of rural areas. I imagine that the entire chapter is centered around Omaha and Lincoln.
Yeah, so we've got some inquiries from a little farther afield, but we're centered around Omaha, and we've got a couple guys in Lincoln.
What's the chapter like when you guys came together? Did you guys already know each other beforehand, or was it a bunch of was it you got brought together because you were interested in building a chapter out there?
So I met the gentleman who became our treasurer through basket weaving, Dave the Distributist project, and then after that, I put in an inquiry with OGC Central, looking to see if there were anybody who was interested in the region, and they kind of put the initial 5 of us together through our emails. We had all kind of except for our treasurer, had all sent emails independently to OGC Central looking to get something started. And so that was our first meeting. We met in a beer garden, and things kind of really took off pretty quickly from there, in terms of we all sort of said, okay, well, we know what we want, we know what what our goals are. We know that we want to get this thing off the ground. Let's get a move on.
Well, yeah, tell us about like kind of how you guys came together and did like this whole. I mean, you mentioned how you met and all that kind of stuff, but your chapter was, I think, the last one incorporated in 2025. Is that correct?
Yes. So here's the thing: we had been working on it since the winter of 2024. There was definitely a lot of kind of conceptual conceptual staging. Then we started to implement more of a membership structure, and a discussion of like passing our bylaws. Kind of getting our hands dirty into what does running an organization actually look like, filing for our status with the state, or whatever, incorporating with the state, etc. our first officer election was basically like, all right, do you want to do this? And then I'll do this. Okay, cool. All right, everybody good with that? Sweet. And that's, that especially in a lower population area where it was really just like a very core group, a very small core group, that's kind of how things started. Now that we've gotten the balls rolling in terms of meeting new people, bringing people in, people reaching out through OGC Central, or finding guys where we all kind of say to each other, hey, I like this guy, this person's my friend, we know this person from church, let's kind of bring this together, as well as just kind of getting like closer, becoming more of a fraternity and a brotherhood since then, through the process that we've gone through to actually set up the club, and then also through just the activities that we've put together and that we've been doing.
Yeah, so I'll also say the one of the benefits of just the population distribution of Nebraska is that we're all pretty close to each other. The farthest we've got, like from Omaha, like so far, is like Lincoln members, which is like a 45-minute drive to Omaha, or like an hour to like downtown Omaha. So almost all of our interactions have been in person. In fact, like the problems that we've had is like getting people to interact in the online group chats, not getting people to show up to in-person things. I think we've maybe had like 2 online meetings. Most other interactions that we've had have been in person.
I mean, that's a good problem to have. The online space is exactly what the OGC was meant to kind of address, to get us away from that. So I'm glad to hear that if your biggest problem is you can't get people to engage online as much as in person, that's about as good a problem to have as any. So how's growth been since you guys got started?
So we started with 5 members. We're currently at 8. We're looking at we've got like 3 promising prospective members, and then like 4 inquiries that we haven't sussed out yet. So we're definitely focused more on quality growth than quantity growth. And we are not in a position like the East Coast where we have a lot of people, sort of like a lot of base people anyway. So we definitely want to take our time and make sure we really suss out who we want to be a part of this thing and who is going to actually put in the work, put in the effort, show up. That's kind of more of our focus than rapid growth.
Yeah, of course, and that's been the ethos of the OGC in general. And I do feel for people who live in kind of what I would consider the far-flung reaches. I mean, it's unkind to refer to it as flyover country, but until very recently, there are places that people didn't go to unless they had family there, unless they had been established. So it's not going to be as population dense. So I'm glad to hear that. I mean, that kind of growth in less than a year, if you're already looking to potentially double your membership within 6-8 months, that's pretty fast growth for an organization like ours that is trying to focus on that quality, as you say. You guys had mentioned before some activities you guys had gotten into. Are those things you can share with the audience?
Yeah, Icos, do you want to take that, or do you want me to?
Sure. So one of the significant activities of our club has been a book club where we are with so one of our members is very versed in philosophy, very versed in the classics, and holds a role kind of towards ends. And so he's been in part leading us through a book club where we are going through the classics, especially classics of poetry that have significant significant religious basis. So we've read the Inferno, We're getting through Paradise Lost currently, and you know, we have ambitions to go back to Dante, as well as other classics of the Western canon, and especially of the, you know, kind of Christian Western canon, as we move on. That's been definitely a great one. And then other things that we've been doing, generally, you know, brotherhood activities, hikes, potlucks. We're trying to kind of get families more involved and have more events where we can incorporate our wives and children, so that, you know, we as a group kind of grow closer and grow into each other and grow into that.
Well, it's awesome. I wish you guys the best of luck in getting an army together to go take Council Bluffs, which, you know, we mentioned,
I don't know if we want Council Bluffs.
Council Bluffs earlier, but could you guys? We have a little bit of time left. Could you guys give us a quick rundown on what the experience of Council Bluffs is?
I can kind of go through that. So the further from the river you get, the like better it gets, much like in Omaha, but it's like much worse in Council Bluffs. Let's see. I have a proposal to make to our Iowa brothers, that once we, you know, retake the West, we should wall off Council Bluffs and turn it into Arkham City. We can have an entryway to go to the casinos and stuff, because, you know, gambling is outlawed in Nebraska. So have like some entryways to go to the casino so you can have an outlet for that. But just wall off Council Bluffs and turn it into Arkham City. And honestly, it wouldn't be that much different than it is now, especially right down across the river. Like it's not great.
It already has the aesthetics for it. So, you know, Omaha has a lot of kind of Art Deco leftovers, but very pretty, very pretty things. We've got like a big cathedral too. Like there's a lot of aesthetic beauty and prettiness in Omaha. And so I guess Council Bluffs saw that and said, okay, we need to distinguish ourselves. And so they have brought in these just horrible, like monstrous and unsettling works of modern art that they have put all around their city. Just, you know, as you're going down the highway, there are these really monoliths of twisted, like jagged metal, just they're just imposing, like they're just jutting out of the landscape.
If you paint it all black, it would look like a villain's lair.
It would. And there's this statue of, basically looks kind of like Slender Man. You know, if we remember way back then, like it's just like a man who's been stretched way, way too far. It's like 20 feet tall. It's on the other side of the bridge between Nebraska and Council Bluffs. And
on I-80?
Shit like that is everywhere.
Is this I-80 or 480?
I don't know. It's kind of like the bridges and streets sort of within Iowa. I would say maybe it's 480. I don't know. I don't go there a lot. So
yeah, no, I mean, this makes sense. They're erecting little totems to make people coming in understand that they're not welcome.
They're welcome as long as they go to the casinos. That's the modus operandi of Council Bluffs.
Yeah, how do the casinos work out there? Is it stuff like it has to be on native land, or are they just legal?
No, so Iowa has legal casinos. Nebraska does not. So if you want to gamble, you typically have to go to Council Bluffs. Now, this has changed recently. They passed a law that you can have a casino attached to a racetrack. So there's one racetrack in Omaha that has actual horse races maybe once a year. So they did open up a casino there. But for the most part, the gamblers go to Iowa.
So this is kind of an aside, but what is the casino experience like in Iowa? Is it sad?
I would describe it as sad. I don't know if Austin Icos has any experience with this. But,
I've never been, and honestly, if I went, I wouldn't go for the gambling. I'd go for the buffet.
All right. Well, fair enough. Let's turn over real quick to the super chat. Paul Unsford, 8921 for 1999. Midwest OGC represent the best new chapter. Well, thank you very much, Paul. I imagine that this helps confirm that you are indeed in the Midwest, although I do suspect that this might be a fellow member of Steam and Steel.
I don't know.
He's using a different name, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, we ain't got nobody called Paul.
Excellent. So before I ask you guys the one obligatory question that everyone has asked, we didn't even get to touch on the Jeep Menace, but it seems like you guys have your other ethnic problems out there, so we'll stick with those for now. Who knows? When you're on next year, maybe the Jeets will have arrived in force. We'll see.
No, they're here.
What should we be looking at Nebraska to see coming out of Lincoln and Omaha in the coming couple of years?
So I think we are primarily focused right now on internal development, on making sure that our members are in good positions, that they develop themselves as much as possible so that we have good quality members. And from there, we've got tons of ideas, but until we can get to a point where we can start to enact them, that doesn't really matter. So right now we're primarily focused internally on getting quality members and making our members as quality as possible.
Awesome. That makes sense to me, getting your own house in order before you start moving outward. And now for that final question, what is a piece of unsolicited advice that you would lay upon your brothers in the org?
I would just say, don't worry so much about like what other chapters are doing, or like focus on your local environment, focus on what makes your local area you, and then try and develop that and bring it forward into the future.
Icos?
Get after it.
All right. Short and sweet. Well, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Icos, for coming on and representing the Steam and Steel Nebraska chapter. Be sure, if you are from Nebraska and listening, be sure to join up. If you are way out in Hemingford, Nebraska, maybe you're gonna have to open up your own chapter. So get some friends. I'm sure you have a couple. Be sure to join us next week for the Iowa Dragoon Society, where they will have the opportunity to cast a lot of shade on Nebraska without Nebraska being able to punch back. Though the national conference is coming up pretty soon, so I am hoping that you guys will be able to fight it out fisticuff style.
We have a cornhole tournament planned to determine who has to take Council Bluffs.
That's great. I imagine that both you and the Dragoon Society will be committing troops regardless, but whoever ends up having to govern it afterwards must be what you're fighting over. We did get one more super under the wire. Newsboy $3.99 for $10 says absolutely nothing. Well, thank you, sir. Another short and sweet super chat. For the Old Glory Club, I am NotMeNotYou. Thank you all for joining us tonight.